Okay, so my name's Richard Metcalf. We've got Dave Barlow, Joe Green and Pete Meach here. I'm going to be chairing this meeting. The question today is how to critically discuss how you would motivate uninterested but not necessarily inactive young people aged 16 to 24 who are not in education or employment to do regular activity. To actually critically discuss this, we need to discuss and define each of the keywords in the title question. So physical activity can be defined as any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscle that requires energy. And motivation can be defined as the direction and intensity of one's efforts. And that's by Sage 1977. The group of people being looked at today have no regular commitments, so in theory they should have more time on their hands. To motivate them, young people need to equal out their life experiences, so stuff like their career choices, their career progressions, their mental health and their physical fitness. So with time squeeze, that's often pushed aside. So first we'll go on to Dave and he'll explain about some stats and figures.
Yeah, so in Sports England, in their latest youth pack, they talked about how about the last 10 years it's been very stable in terms of participation in this age group and in this demographic. However, if you look at the Olympic sports such as swimming and boxing and athletics, a lot of them did have talked about how they got more participants, which if Sports England's stats are also correct, that would mean that this age group still hasn't been motivated by the Olympics. So then how can we motivate them?
I looked at the perceived competence theory. Rothenstein et al. Last year, they produced a research task, and basically they sampled 1,962 team players aged 14 to 15. So it's a year younger than the age group, but it's still relative. And basically they analysed their task orientation and ego orientation to develop the perception of competence. And what they found out was that players with higher perceived confidence, they had higher relative autonomous motivation towards team sports such as football, ice hockey and basketball. So basically, if I was a sports psychologist looking to get a NEET into being active again, I would get a structure for him because they found out in the research that they prefer organised sports. So if as a psychologist, I'd get a structure in place, such as like training, match, and another training. So and at the same time in a week, so that they become committed to it. Because since they're not in employment or in work, they might feel incompetent, unimportant, and demoralised. So if we work on their strengths and get their task and ego orientation up, then hopefully we should see a steady progress in their participation.
So looking at that study from the competence motivation theory, obviously you said about they were sort of more competently sort of motivated in team sports.
Yeah.
And I think that the attribution theory is a good theory to explain the fact that it is more based on situation. So attributions is obviously people's perceptions about causes of events, and that determines future behaviours and expectations. So obviously people's attributes have elements and dimensions, okay? So you've got a dimension of locus of causality, and that can be internal or external attributions, such as ability and effort towards a task, which is internal, or task difficulty and luck, which is external. I think that this is a big barrier because the attribution theory explains that with previous situations, if people have felt that they have failed, they're not as motivated to continue within sport. But this can also be used to get 16 to 24-year-olds back into sport, because you can use people's past successes to almost motivate them to get back involved with the sport.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And following on from both your points, the competence motivation theory looks at the competence and worth as well as their perceived control. But I feel that sometimes their value of how they perceive the sport itself. So a lot of people don't value physical exercise as being fun and enjoyable. So it's important to try and motivate them through that in that respect. So stuff like they had a TV commercial on a few months ago called This Girl Can, that was produced by Sport England. And I think if we did something like that again for the age group between 16 to 25, we could really focus on how to value physical fitness again for that age group.
Yeah, on a personal example from that, my mum works at a youth hostel in Weymouth for 16-year-olds and upwards, and most of them are not in employment or work, or education, sorry. So, as you said at the start, they've got loads of time on their hands, and she said that to get them involved in sport, they focus on the fun, because many of them are like demoralised and they feel unimportant and stuff, because of the way their lives have, been dealt. So they really focus on the fun, so instead of like the traditional sports, like they go for like ultimate frisbee and stuff like that, just to get them out of bed and interested in the sport again.
Supporting Joe's point there, talking about the stability and the controllability of situations. If a person feels that the situation is stable and it's controllable, I think they're much more likely to be involved with sport, because they are in control of themselves as well, which is obviously a positive effect.
Yeah, I think kind of on that point, we do need to look at so what is actually stopping people, because we can use these theories to kind of start to motivate them. But I mean, a big barrier for a lot of them will be finances, because obviously if they're not in education or employment, they're probably not going to have lots of income. So it might be that we need to look at so how do we take away that barrier? Like how do we
accessibility and
yeah,
things
exactly,
like that.
make things far more accessible.
I think a good point on that is the fact that we can offer alternatives. So obviously you've got these big sports like football and stuff like that, where you have to play subs and stuff like that. But there's a lot of free exercise you can do. And we can try and really make that a bit more accessible and try and educate people a bit more on how you can use physical exercise without having to go spend loads and loads of money.
The only thing is, because a way to advertise this could be like through college and stuff, but obviously they're not in employment or work, so obviously they won't see it. So that's the thing that might stop them seeing it. So
I think the main barrier itself is trying to almost balance out people's personal opinions and attributes with the accessibility and how they have these opportunities risen to them. I mean, this theory can be quite unreliable in the fact that it only really talks and determines about situation, and it doesn't really talk about sort of like personal emotions and what people want in sport and things like that.
I was going to say on Pete's attribution theory that, as I've mentioned, that they might feel incompetent and unimportant if, say, they start doing sport, but then an officiating decision goes against them, and that could, especially at the early stages, then it could demoralise them again, and they could just quit from there. So that's another barrier.
So I guess because the two main forms of motivation are intrinsic and extrinsic, and that's where kind of this comes in. So intrinsic is about kind of the inherent satisfaction they get from it, but obviously extrinsic is more about kind of money or trophies or those kind of things. So if we kind of try and teach people to participate, for the inherent satisfaction, for the social, for the fun, for the health, then kind of that becomes less of an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so to conclude, we looked at both attribution and competence motivation theory. The attribution theory looks at more about the situation and their previous experiences, which is good, but however, critiquing this, people who've had bad experiences in the past may not feel like they are motivated to continue really in physical activity. And that's kind of the same with competence motivation. Even if they feel competent, don't feel very competent in this, there are situations where people still continue in regular exercise itself. So we do need to think about different ways to get around barriers and stuff like that, and try and get people to be intrinsically motivated rather than extrinsically.
Yeah, on that point, again, this summer there's the Euros, isn't there? So following the Olympics, there was a big spike in participation after that. So hopefully, like the government stuff will use the Euros to hopefully,
with all the money that they'll be getting in from that tournament, they can use that money to put back to the grassroots level, and hopefully look to increase participation. Especially people that are not at the moment interested in sport.
It's the Olympics again this summer as well. So hopefully, if any luck, that will continue.
Yeah.